We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory will swell when again touched, as surely they will be by the better angels of our nature.
Welcome back, guys. Another episode of Stay Gold's Movie Chess. Little heavier pick this time. American History X, directed by Tony Kaye, starring Edward Norton. Yeah, I mean, I picked this one mostly out of just curiosity. I mean, I figured it'd be a pretty controversial pick, obviously. But and then you guys mentioned how brutal it was, and yeah, it definitely comes across throughout most of this movie. A lot of propagandism, a lot of high tension gang stuff. So, yeah, I'm curious what you guys. I mean, like you said, Alex, you've rewatched this a few times, and yeah, I don't know about you other two, but what your impressions were off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, this was my first time. I'd like to commend you for taking this choice because honestly, it's been on my list for so long, and I don't think I ever would have pulled the trigger. It's like it's come across the chest a few times, and I'm just like, I'll get to that one eventually.
That's kind of why I picked it too.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been there for a long time. It's been one I've been told I need to watch for various reasons, not any bad reasons. Yeah, no, I appreciate the watch. I have this one was a very unique movie, and I'm kind of torn on a lot of it, which I don't get that a lot of opinion. Like I usually come out with a very firm opinion on a movie, I'd say, and this one I'm still kind of thinking about this one. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, tough watch for sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is like the third or fourth time in this one, and I hit an emotional beat, I guess. I get a lot of times thinking in my car nowadays because I drive so much, so maybe that was why. Because I watch it right before I went to bed, so when I woke up the next morning, it was still in my mind. But yeah, I won't get into the nitty-gritty details of what I think yet. So what did you think, Patricia?
Well, it's also my first time watching it, and I think I'm in the same boat as Mattis. I'm like, I don't know. I kind of kept switching my rating, like, back and forth. I don't know. I feel like it didn't land as much as it should. I don't know if that made sense, but like it just didn't feel like something that was profound to me, as some of my friends had told me about the movie.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, you should watch this because, it's about racism and stuff like that." And I try not to be super subjective about stuff, especially when it comes to like issues like that. But I don't know, like this movie, I feel like it was made well, but like it wasn't something I liked at all.
Yeah. I was
So,
like,
yeah.
I feel similarly. Like I was worried going into this one, like if it was a movie that was like glorifying this point of view, because I feel like it's very. I mean, that's like probably part of my aversion for like not wanting to watch it. I was like, damn, like is this all just gonna be like, is it pushing this Nazi agenda, or this propaganda stuff? So and like early on, I almost got like I was scared that's where it was headed.
Yeah.
But I found like through a lot of like Edward Norton's monologues and stuff, and like some of the stuff he says, it's like there's like so much hypocrisy and everything like he's saying, like it's like very clear and like on the nose, like why this viewpoint is wrong and like why this worldview is wrong.
Definitely.
And like, so I thought I commend it for that because it didn't fall into like the just like like pushing that agenda.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I got a lot from that because it was like juxtaposing this of like starting here, coming out here. At least with his character, Edward Norton's character.
Yeah. I'll go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm gonna get long-winded. I'm gonna hop on.
You're good. I mean, that scene, one of the scenes that jumped out where it demonstrated what you were saying, It's like shows them like riding through the store, and it's a terrible scene. One of the worst scenes in the movie. But like,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's sitting at a dinner table the next scene, and he's like bitching about how like minorities are like rioting in their own communities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he's not hearing like the hypocrisy.
What he's saying.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely giving you those beats and giving you like what you need for this story, I'd say. Like I don't know, a lot of it did land for me, but there were some misses. Like I agree with you, Patricia, too, about some of the stuff, about just some of it kind of seeming out of place or out of tone or out of touch a little bit. I don't know. I mean, we can get into it a little deeper, but I'd say a lot of the portrayals of minorities in this movie are very one-dimensional. Maybe by design, but like at the end of the day, it's not really giving the full integrity of the message, I guess, but it's trying really hard, and I came out of it appreciating it, so.
Yeah. The way I put it is it's like an ogre, right? It's got layers. So on the surface it's ugly, it's got the base. What you see is like it's about these white supremacists, right? That's the base layer. It's about racism. But I think overall, it's, not to sound cliche, but the last line is the last little voiceover.
It's
Kind of sums it all up, life hates baggage. Life's too short to be so pissed off,
Right.
Yeah.
So I think when it goes down to the core of it, yeah, it's about all this racism and all this stuff on top of it. And like you guys said, the hypocrisy between everything that's happening and, the juxtaposition between all these different sides. But when it comes down to it, I think it's just about the inherent evil of people, I think, because when you get down to Edward Norton having his brutal epiphany in prison, it wasn't any race or anything involved. It was just straight human evil, right? And he was like, hold up a minute. Maybe I'm not looking at it right. Maybe I'm just thinking one-dimensionally about it, when it should just be like, what's the choices we make kind of mold us, obviously. How we're raised and all that stuff also adds into it. But my idea is that people are naturally evil, right? So if you're not told otherwise, or if you're live that life without branching out and being a good person, you're always going to be evil. It's just in your blood to be naturally evil.
Yeah.
Kind of depressing, maybe. I don't know. But
Default setting.
right.
Yeah.
So I think that at the core of this movie, it's just like people are bad. And, if you let hate and anger just control your life, that's what you're going to be. So, and I think down to the last scene where he gets, I'm going to spoil it now, but the brother gets shot, right? So I read reviews and they're like, oh, well, this is wrong when they just flip the switch like that. It just goes back on everything the movie said. But no, it's at its core, it's just a guy who's mad and he's controlled by that anger. So he shoots this kid, right? And it's just down to the core.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what color you are. It's just at your core, if you're angry and controlled by this hate, you're going to lash out and do these things. So that's the way I saw it this time around. I don't know.
Binary thinking like that is like not conducive to human growth.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I appreciated like where this movie left us in that respect, because it felt like the opposite of Edward Norton's rambling at the table, where it had no point.
Yeah.
There was the end of the movie, it had some point like it was trying to make. And,
right. And
I
even
appreciate it for that.
Even that scene at the dinner table, it's like the way he was treating his own family members. It had nothing to do with anything except the fact that he was just pissed off. So like he just lashed
Just
out.
like
So
pumping himself
core,
up.
Right. At the core, it was just evil, hatred. I don't know.
No.
Yeah. It was.
I mean,
this was made like 1998, right? And it's kind of like shocking to me that how relevant and like how like the language they've used in this film is still like being
Still
used
around.
in 2022. So that's what I was like, oh shit, like it's crazy how it's still going on from like 1998, and it's like still the same things. And like, I know this movie, I feel like some of them was out of touch, but I feel like, the same lessons that we learned in this movie could still be applied to like today.
Right.
Definitely.
But you know,
Yeah, that conversation at the table, I think, was one of the best scenes and probably one of the most important scenes because I was like listening to it and like hearing people like knew or like I was
Yeah.
like, this is probably like this type of conversation is definitely still ongoing at tables, like you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So that
That's
felt
something
good.
that jumped out to me. I was like, this movie. I mean, these are hard conversations, obviously, right? This movie sort of forces people to watch it and like to have not a conversation with other people, like a conversation with themselves too.
Yeah.
You know, to like really think about, I don't know, how they're going through life. You know, like
Yeah.
that kind
And as relevant as it is now, it was probably 10 if not 100 times more relevant in the 90s too. Because like I remember back in when I was growing up in the 90s, I would like walk to my old creek down the road, and there was like neo-Nazi like swastikas, and I lived out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, no one knows. Like,
Yep.
So that shit was prevalent, and I like thinking back how crazy that viewpoint is. But this is like right after all the riots in LA and a lot of like boiling points in the country in the 90s, and it feels like this movie did need to be made. Like at the end of the day, like there's probably a lot of people who are misinterpreting this movie and showing it as like, because early on the scene that really got me worried probably for a lot of people was like them like beating the other team at basketball. And like it's like heroic. It's like filmed in a heroic way, and it's intentional. But like some people just are not that smart, man. And the people that are thinking in this way are not that smart. So like
That's right.
they're gonna take it,
and
in their own way.
Right. And I mean, there is payoff because he does have this arc, whether or not you think like, oh, he deserves to have this praise for changing his viewpoints. But like, again, at the core, like when he steps out of the shower and he covers up, the swastika, it's like you're still a human underneath all of it at the end, and you know, even though his outer side, like an ogre, ugly on the outside, So I don't know. It was just good. I see why, like my mom, I said it's her favorite movie. I don't want to like paint my mom as in a bad light, but at the core, she likes the emotion and the fact that, Edward Norton's character, what he goes through is kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's emotional. It's an emotional ride.
Transformation.
How he comes from where he was, like where he started, how he got to where he was, and then how he ended up. I don't know. It's just that character is just very, very good.
I really enjoyed like after the shower scene.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say because I'm thinking you get the point of what that scene is. You haven't even seen it, but after that, he's talking to the principal and everything, and the guy's like, it's not enough to just like run away, right? To like get out and like get away from it. It's like you've been such a long, like big part of this and long part of this that like there's some restitution to be made here. Like you have to just involve yourself to the point of like fixing what you've done, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So and you see that through the like where he's like pulling Danny out, trying to get him out and pull him away from the main dude. The dude with the leader of the Nazi gang, whatever.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah. I think Edward Norton's character. This might be one of the This got to be a tough character to play, man. So like I commend him for like even taking on a role that's like this controversial and this tough.
Yeah.
When he's getting arrested, like the pure just animalistic hatred on his face as he's getting arrested. It's just like damn. I don't know. That was.
Yeah, he was like proud too. That's what I found, and then like
he raised
that was
his
a very
eyebrows and then he
scary
realized
scene.
how angry he was.
Very scary scene. I mean, that scene. That's the one that I hadn't heard about for a long time as like brutal. Like you get ready for this scene, and I mean, it fucking lived up. Terrible.
Intense.
Yeah. And then filmed after like that proud like heroic shots like with his arms raised like. Terrifying, man. Yeah. But I mean, I enjoyed Edward Norton in this role. Sometimes I kind of found him unbelievable. I don't know if you guys found that at all. Somewhere in his dialogue and his like giant monologues, I wondered if he was intentionally like playing him as like dumb or not as like serious to like not go that far with that character, or to like kind of like thumb your nose at like the whole idea of like that character, and he's probably not that smart. I don't know. I wonder how many levels that man went into, I guess, but
yeah, did you guys like the I don't know, I thought it it was smart doing like the flashbacks between black and white and color and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know,
I enjoyed that a
showing
lot. I mean,
Yeah.
and if you're showing this to a person, like I wonder like how many people got turned from this movie too. But like, I mean, obviously black and white, it's like showing the simplicity of that man's mindset back then. He only sees literally black and white
Right.
conflict, you know, like
Mhm.
it's very like on the nose, but it's very like ingrained and like true. So it makes sense to me, you know. I don't know. I mean, I got a notes on like the structure of this movie being very successful too. I can go into, I guess, but yeah, I don't know. I thought the flashbacks did did a lot for the character, especially obviously the main character.
Definitely.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Even at the end with like the little bit with like the where Danny's talking about like I thought this happened like after our dad died, but it was clear that like even before.
Shows the
Then
true genesis
seeds
of
were
like
planted.
where this was. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a smart
Mhm.
scene too, because I mean that's kind of what
Mhm.
the conclusion I came to a long time ago is that like a lot of racist people. It's not that they just were like born racist and like yeah that's me. It's like they listened to their like dad or mom say stupid shit when they were a kid, and like people agree with them, and then they like
Mhm.
decided to hop on the bandwagon so they were so they could be accepted. And
Like
I
if
mean,
that's how you're raised, that's how you're molded.
yeah, I mean that was good to show. I thought because like you're trying to show truth to like who this character is, and to me I think that is a lot of how that is spread, you know. It's in your family, it's in
Definitely.
your friends obviously too, but
Mhm.
And it was clear
Yeah,
that like
even
Danny latched on to Derek
yeah,
for the same
Yeah.
reasons.
right, it's a
Mhm.
chain, it just
Sorry,
never
sorry,
stops.
Patricia.
Mhm. Yeah, I was gonna say like when Danny was saying how when you look back at your loved ones and you see them as this horrible person, like you never realized that they were like that, was kind of probably shocking to him to see or to realize that it came from their dad. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like a lot of racists are just normal people among us. And like that kind of realization just I think hit for me. One of the scenes that hit most to me was that one.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
When Edward Norton says to his mom when she comes and visits him, like, "Oh, Danny's not my responsibility," but like their dad died, so it's kind of like that was who Danny looked up to at that point. That was
Yeah.
his sort of father figure.
Yeah,
So it kind of was his responsibility. He just didn't realize what he was doing to him, I guess. Or I mean, but not that he didn't realize. He just decided like, oh, this isn't my fault that he's the way he is. This is just how the world works. But obviously, as he grows as an individual, he realizes. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean it's clear that like most of the characters in this or like that are part of Derek's following and the gangs and all that stuff are like heavily insecure, like people that are like driven by fear and anger.
Projecting, yeah, hardcore projecting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's what you'd hope would be seen. That's like this movie really does toe the line with being like, I mean, it's not propaganda. I don't think it's like I'm not the person that's like this is like totally what you didn't want to like. It's very intentional and successful in a lot of ways, but there are moments that kind of pull it towards that. I don't know. The ending for me too. It's kind of a little bit disconnected. As not the theme, like the themes are all kind of there, but just like the brutality, it was like kind of for shock value, a little bit for me. I don't know, sort of the plot elements that built up to that felt like a little unjustified. Like I was ready to like go home out of the movie like with my heart held high. I'm like people can change, man, like and they went the other way to show that it's not completely changed obviously, which is the truth, but it was done in a way that didn't really thread like the plot elements in a successful way for me. That's kind of where I lost it. Not really in just like too dark, just like
it would have been nice to have I don't know. It would have been nice to have like any of the other characters other than Danny like question, something, anything.
Yeah.
yeah.
One of my biggest problems, I think, for this movie was we spent a lot of time kind of learning about how Danny and what's the other dude's name?
Derek.
Yeah. How they came to like this kind of mindset. And I feel like they kind of just oh, he has a black friend now. Oh, they kind of, bonded over wanting ladies again, and
Yeah.
now and like the brutal rape scene in the shower, and that made him not this person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I get the message. I just feel like it was like, oh, there you go. He's quick turnaround. He's good now.
It's too
And
easy for him.
that's, yeah.
Yeah, it did
So I feel like
feel a little
they,
rushed, and like a lot of the plot and like emotion was built in the earlier stages of that, so that is true. Like, and
Right.
I think kind of like where this might, it's like where it toes the line is like it's glorifying a lot of it through like flashbacks with like a very longing like fantasy approach with the brother. I just forgot his name. We just said it.
Eric?
Derek,
No, the younger brother. Which one?
Oh,
Danny?
Danny. Yeah, he's the one that's like longing, like he's like longingly telling you like back then this is how it was, and then everything changed. Like so it's like he's like yearning for those days. So it's like kind of like you feel wrong, like wanting to yearn for those days. So there's a little bit of like unease in that, and then like I understand too, like he kind of takes like the prison rape scene is like how he changes his mindset, I guess, in the end. And it's not really like directly linked to like what you'd want it to be, like the change in a person, I guess you'd say. But I kind of also see the truth in that moment as like a man who's that ingrained in this mindset. It might take just something else like that is going to change something, So I understand fully. Like it did feel a little cheap, a little rushed, and a little like easy. But at the same time, the beats or like the reasons felt okay to me. I don't know,
I think to defend that, I think the opposing would be like, yeah, the rape scene, that was like the tip of the iceberg. That's kind of what broke the ice for him. And I think after that, like when Sweeney came in to talk to him, and he was like, yeah, you can't just run away. You got to do more. And then he was totally ready to, get fucked up in prison after he lost his companions or whatever. But once he stopped, going out and flaunting his, skinhead ways or whatever you want to call them, it was kind of like, oh, wow, we're just all people here, and if we just be normal and be good and keep to ourselves and I don't know, then maybe that was kind of that process. I mean, again, it's rushed, I will say that, but I think that was just the tip. And then him talking about like, oh, I was totally ready to get fucked up, but then they just kind of walked past me, and it was just kind of like, maybe if I just don't be an
Move on.
asshole, right?
Yeah.
And realize, open my eyes to a better, brighter world of like, oh, if people are just kind and considerate, then nobody needs to fucking die and shit.
Have to
like
live
that.
in constant confrontation or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that was just like the slope that kind of he tripped down, and then it was like it hurt at first, obviously, but then it was kind of like, oh, this is kind of nice down here. So I don't know.
I feel that. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like you were saying, like the reasoning behind them is sound. Well, yeah, could have been done a little quick, or is cheapened a little bit. Sure. I mean, it's a little laughable that like, I don't know, takes the black dude in the laundry room like to get there, but for this character, like it's what had to do it. Right?
Yeah,
for
like
like this guy.
what are you gonna relate to about this meathead like dude? It's like women. I mean, that's just
Right.
it's an easy way in, and it's the genesis, like the first little inklings of being able to like understand each other. So that scene, I did enjoy that scene, and then I mean, could have done more, could have been more emphasis in the right places, but it was there. It was there.
It was like another one of those like breaking the ice where he's like, how can I connect to this guy who just has one mind thought process? Oh, let's talk about pussy, and then
And it
just
linked-
opens up his mind.
It
to,
linked
like,
back
oh,
to
wow.
me like successfully too, because the opening scene, other than like the black and white waves on the beach, is like just cuts to him like banging his girlfriend super loud and annoying and shit. And so when he's like mimicking like the loud and like, the angry sex, like all that, it's like, oh, he knows that. Yeah, like so it's like I was in the character's mind at that point in a way, so it was good. I mean, the writing was pretty good in this movie overall. I read that this movie was like a struggle in editing, and I kind of wonder.
Kind of made it difficult.
I kind of wonder like what the difficulty was or what was cut and changed. I wonder what that movie would have been if it was different. I don't know, maybe better, maybe worse. You never know, I guess. But they landed somewhere in the middle. I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna think about this one more in the right ways. Like
Yeah, for sure.
Hey,
Yeah, it's
rewatches
scary
are
to think.
beneficial, I think, for this one especially. I don't know.
Really?
Like I said, I mean, I enjoyed it all the times I've watched it, but this time it was just kind of like, huh, got me to thinking. And
nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all like this. Like I said, I was like hesitant to pick it. I was like,
Scared.
just pull the trigger on it, like get it out.
I'm glad we did
there
it. Yeah.
this is what
Yeah.
movies are for, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was thinking
sure.
too after, like, during and after this, I was like, I don't know if they would ever make a movie like this again. Like, I don't know. I
Ever
was,
again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I think they were missing something because you might have misfires, but like, I don't know. It was a very bold decision to make this movie, and I think it needed to be made. And like, we might be missing out on some of those themes and stuff because we're too like scared to make those movies now.
sensitive.
I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, it's tough to even want to tackle something like this. Like you said, in a different editing room or a couple of different editors, this could have someone could have butchered this into being the exact opposite of what it was. I think so.
Yeah.
But
I just have a couple
no Mel
notes.
Brooks movie would be made
What was that?
today. I said no Mel Brooks movie would be made nowadays.
Yeah,
and,
no
like,
way.
those movies,
No way.
those are hilarious and like topical things.
Nah.
I don't know.
I just wanted to make a note this movie because it crossed my mind that the second act of this movie was like actually really good. Like, I know I think I've been like bitching about second acts recently as like taking movies down, but this one was like really good. I think also the first act did a lot of good job with like the flashbacks. They show you like the past, like what this character was, show you where we're in the present day, what this character becomes, and then the whole second act is basically like the prison stuff and like developing to show you that he's a changed man in this way and how he changed. And I don't know, I think I just felt I didn't feel any like second act pains that I usually feel, and I just got to commend it because that doesn't happen very often nowadays. And I think that they developed like a second act like they're supposed to, like some movies just like tread water to get like theme and like ring it out, but this one just like unfolded itself through time in a perfectly like not linear way but digestible way, so just had to commend it for that at least too.
Yeah, you said I remember hearing a quote from Tarantino where it's like a story, there's a good story, it's just a story like is something that unfolds, that like even in the first 15 minutes it's not something like where it's headed. I think this movie at the very least does that. It's like you think where this or at least where this movie's coming from. You like think where it might be going, and then I don't know it all, especially because of the end. You're just like, hey, this movie had a lot to say. I think at the end of the day. So didn't tread water. So
Yeah.
Good pick. Definitely a good pick. Glad it's done. I don't know.
Check.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Patricia, if you'll come around because I was waffling between my ratings for this too, but it was probably a little higher than yours.
Yeah.
Because I'm like 3.5 right now, but I thought it was 4 at times, and I thought it could be 4.5 at times for how like on point it was, but then it would like go out of touch. So
Right.
it was an experience for sure.
Yeah. Like I said, it's like really hard to kind of separate
Yeah.
like feelings and like technicality, like because this movie was like I feel like it flowed really well, like everything's like good, but then I don't know, just like personally it's just not something I liked. So
Yeah, it's like that's what I think is not great about this movie, but like is like I think that most people have a different experience watching this movie, and I think that they're all right too. That's what's like good too. Is I mean not not in like the harsh way, but like I as a person of like a minority, I'm clearly not a minority, but I could understand this being very insensitive to someone too. So I don't know. It's tough. Yeah.
It's thought provoking, and not especially nowadays. Not a whole lot of movies are that way.
No.
Yep.
It's not a lot of movies that you can sit and munch on while you're driving to work. You know, you watch any of the cookie cutter bullshit nowadays. My drive to work, my brain's empty. You know,
Yeah.
I'm listening to fucking
True.
Metallica, just trying to stay awake. But with this one, I was
Yeah.
like, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Good.
Cool. Well, I hope the thumbnail on this one doesn't make people not want to click on. I'm sure
Yikes!
it'll be a
Yeah.
tough one for us to pick and a tough one for some to watch. So on
Yeah.
YouTube. So I guess we'll see. But yeah. Anyways, I mean I landed on like 4. I did waffle between like 3.5. That same range kind of. But yeah, I think at the end of the day I landed on 4 because technically good. Tried like achieved the story it was trying to tell or the point it was trying to make.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I ended up.
4 as well for me, but I waffled between like 4.5 and 4. But
Well, join us next
yeah.
week for a hopefully more uplifting movie, but you never
Yeah.
know
We'll
with the
see.
movie chest.
see.
There's some dark
see
ones
what
in there.
fate has in store.
Yeah, next
Yeah.
week Requiem for a Dream. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Oh gosh.
All right, stay gold, guys.
Stay gold.
Well, my conclusion is hate is baggage. Life's too short to be pissed off all the time.